today we're having Mr. Tunde from University of Lagos, and he'll be speaking to us on developing a heart of service. So I'm going to send him the link right away, and then we're going to begin. Thanks everyone for joining us, and then let's. Okay, so sorry we're late. Okay, very good. Okay, so good. Thank you for joining us. Okay, very good. So we're waiting for Mr. Tunde, and he will be joining us right away. Okay, so start now. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us, and we're going to be going live now. We're going to have Mr. Tunde, and I briefly wanted to talk about him. So I saw his poster around, and then I just felt attracted to him. I felt okay, he had something to really offer to people, and it was very important for me to actually have someone like him live on the section, and that's why we are having him. And thanks. And he's a politician, so he's going to speak from the point of view of being a politician. So thanks everyone once again for joining us, and we hope this is going to bless someone, and people will be blessed and understand how to really serve well. Okay, so we're waiting for Mr. Tunde, and then we're going to start right away. I don't know. I don't know him so well, but the first time I saw him, I knew it was very important to have someone like him. And I read his profile, knowing that it was also an alumni of University of Lagos. So, if you can hear me, please just say hi, so that I know that you can hear me. We're waiting for him right now to join us, and then we're going to begin. So I think we have his wife here. I'm not sure, but thank you very much, Mom, for joining. Thank you so much, Mom. So, I'm still waiting for Mr. Tunde to join us, and then we're going to begin. Okay. Okay. Waiting for him to join us, and then we will begin. Okay. Okay, good. He just joined us now. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Okay. So. Okay, so I'm adding it right away, and then. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining once again.
Okay. Hello, sir.
Hi.
Good evening, rather. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm just still trying to adjust my headset. One moment.
That's fine, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. It's a great privilege to have Tony to join us live on Instagram. Thank you so much, sir.
Really good.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here as well.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go straight to the point, straight to business, and then we're gonna begin. So before we begin, I want to actually say thank you to Mr. Tunde because of I saw his banner around my school, that's University of Lagos, and I kept looking for him. So for every van, for every bus I saw, taking his poster around, I went to meet them. I said, please, how do I get in touch with him? How do I get in touch with him? And I went online, searched for his name, and then I got his Instagram and his Facebook. And I don't know why, but I feel it's very important to have somebody like Mr. Tunde live here. And we've had sessions for over 5 years, 6 years. And I feel drawn to Mr. Tunde to speak on developing a heart of service. So it's a great privilege to have him here. And it's going to last for 30 minutes. And before 30 minutes, we're going to stop and then we'll ask questions and together with it. So that's all. Thank you so much, sir.
Great. Really good to be here. Just confirm that you can hear me well because I'm having some technical issues.
Okay, I can hear you well, actually. I can hear you well.
Okay. All right, fine.
Okay. So the floor is yours, Mr. Tunde, and then we actually want to know about you, and then at the same time, you're a politician, so we want to understand what it means to develop a heart of service.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this session. So, I think in terms of introducing myself, I'm a bit of a mixed bag. So when you introduce me as a politician, I would really like to lead on the fact that I am not a politician by, say, in terms of my profession. So I'll start with my profession, my vocation, etc., my work experience. I am a lawyer by training. However, I am a program consultant by profession. So I have professionally, I have two law degrees, and I also have a degree in business information technology. So that's why I'm a bit of a mixed bag in terms of my professional training and experience. So what that means simply for me is that I am not a practicing lawyer at the moment. However, I'm a business consultant, and a lot of my work has been around consultancy within the technology-driven projects. For example, most notably, I have worked for a number of central government agencies, especially the United Kingdom central government agencies, in conjunction with United Nations and European Union. So my foray into politics is, which brings me to the second part of the question, is in terms of me being a politician. So my experience as a politician simply is just that I am bringing the experience which I've gathered over the years, especially from my training and from my work experience, into politics. And when I say politics, I'm talking about a leadership role in politics. So yes, that's sort of like a summary of, who I am.
Okay, so can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So the topic is developing a heart of service. And I looked through your profile, and one of the guests, I mean one of our viewers said, "Wow, this man's profile is huge." And I'm like, yeah. So we want to know, what do you think service really means in wherever sector an individual finds himself? What do you think it means to really serve?
Okay. So in terms of service, I suppose one of the things that has drawn me into politics, and I think this topic is quite relevant to me, is that being someone in a position to serve, it's really just having empathy and humility. Empathy for the
Mm,
people whom you are actually trying to deliver a service to, and humility for you to understand that people come from different experiences, different backgrounds. So if you're serving people, for you, it's all about being humble enough to bring yourself down to actually be someone who is giving rather than with the expectation to receive. So it's really just having those two qualities as a start for service. And also the thing about service is that when you are called to serve or you volunteer to serve, one should also understand that it's not something that would be readily accepted. You know, I might have a different understanding. All right, I want to serve in my local community. This is what I want to give. I want to be an usher. I want to be someone who's clearing the chairs afterwards. But it might not be something that I'm called to give, but it's something that I have to grow into. But service is all about just finding what it is that you can bring and understanding that you are connecting the dots with other people who are actually bringing a service and also the people who are receiving it. Not everyone is going to want what you're serving. But if you have a clear
mm,
conscience, if you understand that I'm doing this because I would like to give something back to people whom I believe, could benefit from me giving them something, then, that is the way to do it. It's really just a space whereby you make yourself available to do things for other people without the expectation of a reward or a benefit.
mm, mm, Wow, wow. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so there's this question that I believe that you would know very well. You would understand how it feels because of you've been a student of University of Lagos, so you know how it feels like. How do young people like us, especially undergraduates and those still in school and those passing out of school and even postgraduates as well, how do we get to balance serving people and at the same time keeping our conscience clear, especially when we have to work with people that have that the values differ from us? How do we balance working with people like that?
So I didn't hear the last part of the question. I got the
So like,
first part, but not the second part.
okay, so how do we work with people where there's differences in values? And when I mean differences in values, it means that a lot of people say they have values, but where we have values where people see service as having to give, but others see service as having to go in, work, and then earn. So how do we balance? Especially you're in politics, you understand politics. So how do we balance it?
Okay, so I think there's a popular saying that you can't give what you don't have. So in
Mm,
order for you to be able to serve, then you must have some form of requisite experience in order for you to
mm,
give something. It's just like work. You know, we're always been advised to do a job that you love because then that way you spend the rest of your life
mm,
enjoying yourself and making money. So if you're going to serve people or if you're going to balance, you know, your ethics, your experience, your well-being, and your also your ability to give, it's got to be something that you are able to actually provide and you have the capacity to grow from it. So take for example, you know, in the physical space, you know, the most common way of service that people offer is either through charity, through service in our maybe our communities or maybe in our place of worship. Now, in order for you to be able to do that effectively, you must have the time and you must have the experience, right? And also the interest. So if I
mm,
am let's say I'm a Sunday school teacher, for example, I have to love children. I have to have patience. You know, I have to have the temperament to be able to manage a child who doesn't just want to listen to me, or a child who is just delinquent for no other reason other than just want to wind you up. So it's all
mm,
about your temperament. So that's where giving something that you have, and that's where it comes from your experience, you know, your patience and your tolerance levels. So to manage it on the side of your personal life, it's really just a case of if I need to serve somebody or if I need to serve people, it's got to be within me. And do I
mm,
derive joy from it? So there isn't going to be any monetary value, you know, labeled to it. However, there's a bit of satisfaction to know that you have contributed your part to humanity. And it's really just trying to find that comfort space whereby you are giving what you can afford to give and at the level to
mm,
which people whom you are giving it to are willing to understand it and accept it. Please don't forget, when you serve people, it might not, you might think you have the best interest of people at heart, but it might not just be
mm,
the service they need. I might be giving something that
mm,
somebody does not actually need or want or feel the benefit to it, but then I'm feeling, well, I'm doing all I can, but these people are not appreciative. So that's where, you know, you give what you have. And if it's what you love, you keep doing it until eventually, you know, you either adjust or the people whom you are serving understand that, okay, maybe I need to give this a chance. But it's really just
mm.
about patience and balancing it with your mental state as well and your experience.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. Okay, so the other question is this. How do we manage conflict in the course of having to work with people when you have to serve them? How do you manage conflict? Because I believe conflict is part of nature, but how do you manage conflict, especially when you have to serve people wholeheartedly and then it looks as if how?
Okay. So the thing about conflict is that I believe that there isn't any situation that cannot be talked over and cannot be resolved. It's all about shifting position. So, you know,
Mm,
from our very early age, we've all been to the market, especially in our country, Nigeria, where you have to haggle. Someone tells you a price, yeah? They tell you that something costs, say, 10 naira, and you know in your heart, yeah, that you must beat the system. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have your own starting point. And as a rule of thumb, for example, if someone tells me something is 100 naira, I divide it by three and I start with 30 naira. If the person shouts at me, then I know that, okay, it's too low, right? Then, you know, we start to find a common ground. But it's really just trying to find your sweet spot.
mm,
So conflict resolution, you know, it's just about trying to find what it is that I am willing to give and the other person is willing to concede. But both parties must be willing to listen to each other and hear out our arguments. We should have a mature conversation about it. As part of my I think it was my second degree. I did a course in conflict resolution,
mm,
and what's the other one? Conflict resolution. Let's just call it conflict resolution. And one of the things that they train you about is to listen, right? When you listen and understand, not just listen with having an answer that's ready. You listen, you understand, you think over it, and then you give a counter offer or you give a counter proposal. However, you must be willing to listen, and that's where conflict resolution comes into. As long as you show respect to the other person, obviously people are not going to accept what you're saying, and the other side, like you might not accept what the other person is saying as well. But it's just trying to be realistic and be reasonable. When people go into a negotiation, they understand that somebody has to come out feeling that I've got a deal, right? But the best thing about conflict resolution is that both sides leave the meeting feeling that they've got a deal. That's when you know that you've got a good deal. If one side doesn't feel that they've been done, they've been hard done by, and the other side thinks, well, I've got better of them. It's really just listening to each other, thinking over it, and then being thoughtful, be purposeful in your responses. It's not going to be straightforward. It would take a couple of attempts. That's why some people like in negotiations, you might have a couple of meetings here and there. But the thing to it is that don't rush into it. Don't concede too early. Don't give away too much too early. But think over it. Give yourself that time. Let the conversations be factual. Don't just say something just because it's hypothetical. Be practical. Bring practical examples into your negotiations so that people can then, if you put a human face to something, or if you put a human experience to a situation, it's easier for the person to think, okay, well, maybe this is true. This is a real life scenario. I can actually deal with this.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. Mr. Tunde, earlier on, you spoke about humility that has to do with service. And now, somehow, should there be a universal definition for what humility should be and how people should be humble, or how people should walk in humility? Because as we serve people, at certain point, where do we get to balance where we are so mindful of our words and at the same time understanding when we should be humble, so it doesn't look like being arrogant and knowing, okay, this is my words. So how do we understand that?
Okay, so the thing about humility is I believe that every one of us can be humble, right? The reason, or one of the reasons why a person might not be humble is because of outside interference. Look, everybody understands that the more someone praises you, the more someone acknowledges how great you are, right? The more you believe it. And then all of a sudden, you either deal with it very well or you just don't handle it very well. So humility is imbibed in every one of us. Now, what we need to understand is that when people are singing your praise or people are acknowledging you, giving you accolades for a job well done, we need to be reflecting as well. Okay, these people are telling me these things. Have I actually achieved what they are praising me for? It's all about self-reflection and being honest with ourselves. It is within us, but as human beings, sometimes we get carried away. Sometimes, when people tell you something for so long, you start to believe the hype. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all, not infallible. But honestly, handling humility is all about, taking it in, reflecting, and also learning from it as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. So, Mr. Tunde, the other question is, in your course of serving, in your course of acquiring your achievement so far, what is that one thing you would say you've discovered about what it means to really develop a heart of service? What do you think is the center of service? What do you think service should really be all about?
Okay, so in my experience, I would use some of my training. So one of the things I always like to do, or rather I find myself doing, is whenever I'm given a task, or say, we have a group task, for example, during my university days, and I have work to do, even at work, I always volunteer myself to coordinate, right? So when I bring people together, and in my head, what I'm doing is I'm bringing them all together, I'm taking down the notes, I am the one, I'm scribing, I'm the admin, I'm the task manager, I'm the task checker, etc., etc. So automatically, I have put myself in the middle of everything. Now, the trick to that is sometimes I don't get to do the work. Everyone else does the work, and I do the coordination. So maybe it's just my way of, trying to escape doing the work, but it's always worked. So, if we're going to put that into being into service, right? It's all about just trying to be the person who is bringing people together. So when you bring people together, you have to have a certain level of responsibility. You're taking ownership for things being done. You are the one that will make the phone calls. You are the ones that will take the rough notes and, transcribe them into text, into legible text. You distribute them, you get feedback, you collate everything, and you are responsible for ensuring that everyone does what they need to do. So once you put yourself in the center, you are giving yourself a lot of work to do in terms of the coordination. However, if you do a job well done, people then tend to recognize, because, then they feel, wow, okay, were it not for your coordinating and your administrative skills, we might not have been able to achieve it. So it's all about, just being able to put your hand up and say, you know what, guys, I want to do this. I want to lead. I want to take, the forefront, and then also making sure that you are bringing the people on as well. So if people are not pulling their weight as they should, you are the one constantly reminding them, you are cajoling them. And all of this, right? You need to be someone who has the right social skills, your mannerisms, your speak, your tonation, your connection with people, your choice of words, your listening skills, and and the way you respond as well. All of that, I believe, is one of the things that make you a person who is actually serving people within the community, people within your workspace, and just being on hand to actually serve generally.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. And there's this question I want to ask, and I feel, okay, it's very raw. Okay, I'm a student of the University of Lagos currently right now, and now the dynamics of politics in Africa, and especially West Africa, it looks primitive, and primitive because of it's just a repetition of what has always occurred in history. Now, Mr. Tunde, the topic is developing a heart of service. Looking at politics in West Africa and looking at the word service, what do you think is the hope of politics in Africa? Do we have chances of getting better at offering services, empathic services to people? But somehow in West Africa, we've not really experienced empathic leadership like that of the US, where we had Barack Obama having to understand what it feels like for people. Do you think there is really hope for Africans? Do you think there is really hope that Africa would really experience empathic form of leadership?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm actually glad that you are the one, or someone in your position is asking that question, because you're a youth, you are progressive, and from what you are doing, this platform you're creating, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, someone of my age or someone of my generation wasn't doing this. So I'm really glad that, someone of your generation is actually doing this and asking that question. I'm very hopeful. I am 100% hopeful of the generation coming behind me in terms of them or their generation, providing selfless service. And the reason why I say that is, your generation, allow me to use that, you have a way of connecting each other. You have a way of checking each other. There isn't, you guys see yourself as peers, right? You don't pay too much emphasis on a particular person. There isn't a leader that everyone has to go to and say, yeah, this is the godfather or the godmother. Whatever the person says, is gospel. Look at the NSARS protest, right? Your generation, the youths kept on saying they don't have a leader. This is a self-leading movement, right? When the government was trying to get hold of people to call them to, to maybe a meeting and everything, they said, no, this is a public space. Everybody should be entitled to have their voice. So that's where my hope is drawn from. Your generation, you guys, honestly, I am amazed at what you have done, how you have organized yourself, and how you continue to organize yourself in every space. Especially, the digital space has given you guys such an open field to, talk, debate on things, and also call yourself to order, because that's what matters, right? You don't just allow one person or set of people to just run away. with it and say, oh yeah, this is my movement. I own this. So in bringing it back to your question in terms of, where I see leadership, the youth generation and in Africa, etc. I want to speak to Nigeria, right? We'll come to Africa in a second. So, I mean, Nigeria has a very young and vibrant population. And in the last, say, 3 to 4 months, we've been hearing reports of the INEC figures that's been coming out. I mean, the latest one was that about up to 70% of new registrants were youth, people within the age of, I think, maybe 18 and about maybe 25 or just under 30. That is amazing. Like, when I was in my under 30, we weren't this involved, to put it that way. A lot of us were chasing education. We were the jackpot generation, right? We had jackpots, right? Even before jackpot was a thing. Because we felt, so at that point in time in Nigeria, there was a semblance of a middle class. So we thought everything was okay. We didn't know that there was danger looming, right? Because we thought, well, we could still afford to, travel, have an education, buy a car after your university, and et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't get involved in leadership. We didn't get involved in service because we felt, let's leave it to the other people. I tell you for free, if my generation, people within the age of, say, late 30s to like mid 40s, if we had gotten involved in politics 20 years ago, we would have retired a lot of the politicians we have today. Unfortunately, right, we didn't get involved. We are getting involved now. It's never too late for your generation, but give it another maybe 2 election cycles. I strongly believe that the youth generation will be running things in Nigeria, 100%. Now, in terms of Africa, we have seen a bit of it, so obviously I can't speak too much into the grassroots politics in Africa. We do know that in Africa, I think was it in Kenya, that they called him the social media president. All of a sudden, he got in. Now, presidency is good, but I'm more concerned about governance at my local level. Bring it down to your states, bring it down to your House of Assembly, bring it down to your councillors, your local government chairman. That's where I want to see the youth. Because once you drive those policies, drive the legislation at that level, if the states could be independent of the center, then all of a sudden, whoever is the president, you could put a 60, 70-year-old man, and he or she would not make a difference if the youth are driving their home states. So my message to the youth is that I am 100% hopeful, and I know that within 1 or 2 or 3 election cycles, let me put it at that, the youth will be driving Nigeria. They will be the driving force. I mean, people in their 70s, by 2027, they'll be retired, right? So you guys, you've come in at a very good time, right? And honestly, I am so grateful that you guys have come in.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. I'm really grateful that I had this session with you and really, really grateful. Thank you so much. So I think we have a last question and before we round this up, and you've had experiences, you've worked with people, you've moved with people. What's one advice you would want to give to Nigerian people, especially Nigerian youth? What's that one thing that you've always had in heart to let someone know, as young as you were and as young as we are now? What's one advice you want to give to young people?
So, in terms of one, I think one advice might not do justice to it. So I'll probably just say a couple of things that people should be mindful of when they are a youth, right? Get involved, right? Know your locality. However it is that you need to be part of governance, part of leadership, you have to start from somewhere. No one just wakes up one day and runs to be a governor of a state. For example, Lagos State, we have 20 LGAs, local government authorities in Lagos State. You have like maybe, I don't know, the figures were moving from about maybe 15 to 20 million residents in Lagos State. That is a lot of people to govern, right? So as you start from your local level, the party, unfortunately, because of our Nigerian electoral system, you have to belong to a party. We don't have independent candidacy for the moment. So you have to be part of a party. So the youth can organize themselves, right, into a specific party. Make sure you have a spread. Don't just center within one local government. For example, say you just want to be in Surulere, or you just want to be in Amuodofin or Ikeja or Lagos mainland. Make sure you have a spread. Then when you have a spread, you have a larger voice. Then your voice would now carry or spread around the state. Because governance at state level is more important to us than presidential level. So the advice in summary is get involved, make sure you organize yourself, make sure that you have like minds, right? And where you organizing yourself comes in is that, as I said, because of the system we practice in Nigeria, you have to belong to a specific political party. Thank God in Nigeria, we probably have about maybe 19 or 20 that INEC has, the INEC has allowed. So it doesn't matter. It's all about starting from the foundation. That's where people talk about structure. Structure is just individuals, people coming together. There's been a lot of movements that's been happening in Nigeria, especially within this political cycle. I'd love to see that, right? It's beautiful that people are organizing themselves. People are arranging, things to be done in a specific way, and that's where the youths come in, because you guys have the voices, you guys have the numbers. What you need now is just the longevity. You need the interest. You need to carry on. You need to push. Believe me, people are listening. People are watching. Like in my political space now, we have meetings to talk about, what are the youth going to do? Before, it was never like that. In Nigeria, we should think that politics or leadership is being determined in the markets. Leadership is being determined in someone's homes. But right now, believe me, I'm scrambling to put together a youth team so that I can listen to your voice, so that you guys can be part of my leadership for twofold. First of all, because I need your ideas. I need to carry you along, because I need to understand what you guys are thinking. But then the second reason is because it would be my joy for me to be able to mentor a number of youths who can, as I said, in 2 or 3 election cycles, they can be running for office. That would be my greatest joy, because once they learn from me, once we go on this journey together, they learn, they watch, and they do better than what I'm doing now, right? That would be my greatest joy, because, I'm of the opinion that if you're in any leadership position, it's not your birthright. Once you run 1 or 2 election cycles, allow people to come in, because that's the way we can really get the true representation. So yeah, it's really just being part of it, getting involved as much as you can, and as much as you can, organize yourselves.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. Thank you so much. So I want to give the audience 1 or 2 opportunity to ask a question. But if we don't have, we will let Mr. Tunde go. I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Tunde for having this section with him. I want to say a very big thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde.
It's really been it's really been a pleasure speaking to you. I really did enjoy this session. I would ensure that, in terms of my political journey, I do, tag you in what we're doing, because campaign is kicking off now. So it'll be good for you to, see what we're doing. And I'm particularly interested in Unilag, because Unilag is part of my constituency. So yes. I'm putting this out there that, when I do start my tours and my campaign, etc., if I do have to come to Unilag, absolutely, I will look you up, and then we'll definitely be, it'd be good for you to be part of it.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful that I got in touch with you. I've been trying to get in touch with you. I've been seeing your pictures all around, and I'm like, no, I need to speak to this man. Thank you so much, Mr. Tunde. Okay, I think we don't have any questions, so just let Mr. Tunde go. Thank you so much, sir. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, bye.